The Greens want a commission to shut down so-called misinformation during elections and referenda. But make no mistake, this will be abused and will further erode our rapidly vanishing right to free speech. This is Ben Scallan and you're watching Gript Media. Before we start the video, if you want to support Gript and our work, make sure to click like, subscribe and comment, even if you have nothing to say. Just comment the last concert you went to or something. Because by liking and commenting, the channel gets boosted in the algorithm and is seen by more people. So if you want to see this channel grow, just take 2 seconds right now to comment, like and do your part to support independent journalism. And with that, on to the video. Last week, a Green Party junior minister called for the Electoral Commission to be given shiny new powers to shut down so-called misinformation and inauthentic behaviour, whatever that means, during elections and referenda. So to put it another way, the state will decide if they agree that what you said is true, and if they don't agree, then you're not allowed to speak your mind on political matters at election time. And that's certainly not creepy or open to being abused at all. What could possibly go wrong? While they say that the Electoral Commission will be an independent body separate from the government, it will report to politicians in the Oireachtas, not to mention the politicians will be the ones setting the parameters of how misinformation is defined. And it's clear that the government wants to control debate anyway with so-called hate speech laws. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll be very excited to know that your most fundamental rights will soon be entirely controlled by the Green Party. Personally, I can't think of a safer pair of hands.
Or let's get every south-facing windowsill in this country and let's plant our seeds in the next week, so that if there is any supply crisis in fruit in 2 or 3 months' time when this really hits hard, we'll have our salads ready to go. Would we bring back wolves in our country? And I think yes. Bring back a sense of wilderness. I've been from the age of 6 being given that name. You n***er.
Minister Eamon Ryan. Minister Eamon Ryan.
Sweet Jesus, you could not make it up.
Now that's definitely the kind of person I want controlling all public discourse in our society. Regardless, the proposal was made by Green Party Minister of State at the Department of Housing, Malcolm Noonan.
Following on from these broad concepts, the provisions of the new Part 5 will provide the Electoral Commission with monitoring and investigations functions with regard to the dissemination or disinformation relating to online electoral information and misinformation relating to online electoral process information, as well as functions to prevent manipulative or inauthentic behaviours online.
Noonan also said that while the mainstream media was always traditionally trustworthy, now the internet is allowing what he calls false information to spread quickly.
Traditionally, we have trusted the professional values of the media and the perception of the public to filter all the noise that surrounds our electoral events. But the online world now provides unprecedented opportunities to spread false or misleading information very quickly and to create a false impression that a particular position has a widespread support, thus giving it unwarranted credibility.
Now, of course, we've seen this movie before. We don't have to speculate what might happen if the state was given the power to label things as misinformation. The HSE was doing it all through the COVID pandemic, and we saw exactly how that system was brutally abused. For example, as Gript's Gary Kavanagh revealed last year in this article, the HSE reported material from The Hill, Politico, ABC, The New York Post, The New York Times, Reuters, The British Medical Journal, and many other outlets as so-called misinformation. And of course, Gript was included on that list as well, as you can well imagine. And why exactly were these outlets flagged to social media, you might ask? Well, because many of them reported that there may be a link in some cases between blood clotting and the you-know-what. This, according to the HSE, was harmful misinformation, except of course the European Medicines Agency has now confirmed that this was actually true, and yet the HSE confidently labelled it misinfo because they didn't agree with it at the time. They also labelled very obvious jokes as misinformation, such as this tweet, which is clearly taking the piss. The HSE fact checkers thought that this was dead serious apparently, and in fact they even flagged tweets which made no medical claims whatsoever. For example, Tracy O'Mahony, who's anti-lockdown, posted a tweet promoting an event, and the HSE labelled that as misinformation. So they appear to have just lashed out misinformation stamps against anyone and anything they don't like. Some kid goes, "Hey guys, you're all invited to my birthday party." The HSE goes, "Shut it, you little twerp, stop spreading misinformation." An HSE fact checker asks a girl on a date and she says she has a boyfriend. "That's a lie. Stop attacking democracy, you traitor." They were apparently throwing these labels around like confetti, which is exactly how you would expect these powers to be used. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. As for Noonan's claim that the mainstream media is generally trustworthy, if that was a joke, then I'd say this lad would have a bright future in stand-up comedy.
Traditionally, we have trusted the professional values of the media to filter all the noise that surrounds our electoral events.
Just to take one recent example, this is the same mainstream media that said Ireland's Rally for Life last week was attended by, quote, hundreds of people. And this is the event in question. Does this look like hundreds of people to you? Either the journalists writing these articles are deliberately trying to downplay the numbers for political reasons, or they need to invest in glasses and possibly maths grinds. By contrast, by the way, a pro-abortion event outside the US Embassy featured what looked like 80 to 100 people, and that was described as a large crowd by the Examiner. So according to Irish journalists, a large crowd is so small it can barely fit in a phone box, but a packed event that takes up the entirety of O'Connell Street is just a few hundred people. These lads certainly sound like very trustworthy and reliable conveyors of the facts, alright. In fact, many publications did the same all through COVID, if you remember. Thousands of people would come out to protest the lockdown on camera for everyone to see, and the mainstream media would later say that a couple of hundred people showed up, even though that was quite obviously not true to anyone with functioning retinas. It's worth noting, of course, that this is the same mainstream media that is either in receipt of state funding already or is lining up for it as we speak. For what it's worth, by the way, Gript receives no state funding at all and relies entirely on donations from people like you. So if you want to see more of this type of media, please consider a monthly donation of €5 or €10 a month. But regardless, according to Noonan, the media are totally reliable and it's only mammies on Telegram who are spreading misinformation and need to be reined in by the state. He apparently longs for the good old days when only the holy and blameless RTEs and Irish Times of this world were able to report on current events, as opposed to filthy internet rabble like you and I. The government doesn't need your opinion on carbon tax, you ignorant peasant. High Priest Fintan O'Toole, peace be upon him, has already made his thoughts known. Noonan went on to say that there has been an increase in interference with elections, which is why stamping out misinformation is so necessary.
The growth of interference with elections and the increased number of people who rely on the internet and social media as their main source of news make this problem an urgent one.
So to be clear, is Noonan's position here that recent Irish elections have been interfered with? Because that appears to be what he's saying, but if that's true, why would he gloss over that major bombshell? Apart from Thomas Byrne saying that Russian bots were trying to disrupt the programme for government, I'm not aware of anyone claiming anything like this happened. If Noonan believes that there's electoral funny business going on, he should say which elections have been tampered with and how. He should tell us who interfered with them, and more importantly, he should provide evidence. You can't just casually throw out there, oh yeah, and by the way, our electoral system is at risk of being totally compromised, and not back it up. That's absolutely mental. As an aside, it's probably not a good look to say our elections have been interfered with when your party is in government, and it's also not a good look to suddenly want to seize greater control over speech and public discourse as your party languishes on single digits in the polls, but that's a whole other conversation. At the end of the day, the whole misinformation and hate speech debate comes down to this, and simply this. We have a government which, objectively speaking, has failed on the most basic bread and butter issues. Housing is a disaster. Health is a disaster. Violent crime, homelessness, drug addiction, sexually transmitted diseases, the soaring national debt, the rising cost of living, illegal immigration, the crumbling defence forces, non-existent cybersecurity, the rising pension age, high taxes, wasteful public spending, fishermen, farmers, horticultures, and other native industries in bits. And now the same people who have butchered all of those projects say, and by the way, we want to take control of your right to speak and think freely as well. We'll decide what you're allowed to say and what you're not. Does that really sound like a good idea to anyone? We're basically saying, let's take the people who have failed to run anything effectively and let's give them control of everything. They couldn't handle the little bit of power and workload we initially gave them, so let's give them 10 times more and see if they can handle that any better. Is that really a wise or prudent thing to do? If anything, we should be pushing the government out of areas of society, not inviting them into new ones. Even if you trusted their character implicitly and thought they were lovely, well-meaning people, which is a big if, by the way, their atrocious track record alone should be enough to disqualify them from taking on powers like this. The fact that they would even seek this kind of control is alarming and should be met with uproar from the voting public at large. Please like and share this video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider signing up for a monthly donation via the link on screen to help us produce more content like this. Alternative media like Gript needs all the assistance it can get, and every donation goes a long way. As always, thanks for watching.